Hey guys, this is going to be for pre-algebra, so make sure that you're on the right assignment here. So that should say you're doing page 14, 6 through 14. Alright, so make sure that you have your book open. You're going to need a calculator and a notebook piece of paper. You may notice that you see my kitchen counter today. I forgot my iPad stand, so just know that my filming might be a little bit off, but that's okay. I'll remember it next time. And we'll go ahead and work through some examples. So the first example you're going to see me do is number 6 on your assignment. So that first problem. So make sure you have number 6 ready. And I'm going to go ahead and write down the problem. So it's going to be 10x plus 2 equals 32. So right away I know I'm going to draw my line. And remember with these we're going to be using PEMDAS. So if you don't remember what that is, we have parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. However, we're not using it in this order. When we're doing these equations, we're actually going to flop it. So we're going to flop it to SAD MIP, if that's how you want to say it, okay? So, instead we're looking for that subtraction and addition first. Then we're going to go into division and multiplication. So just keep that in mind. So if I'm following this, I'm going to go ahead and look through when I see an addition sign right away. So I know that I'm going to start there. So if I'm adding 2 here, I want to do the opposite because remember our goal is to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2. So this cancels out. This I can do the quick, easy math for. That's going to give me 30. Now I'm not finished, and how my brain works is I like to organize my stuff after I solve any math. So I'm going to drop down 10x because that's what I have left to solve. So I'll have 10x equals 30 left. Now following this, I'm going to be looking for division and multiplication. Now, I don't see any of these signs, and that's okay. Whenever you see a number right beside a variable, it's always and forever going to mean multiplication. So just remember that. This means multiplication. So if you see a 10x, if you see a 5h, if you see a 6x, whatever it is, this means multiplication every time. So just keep that in mind. So if I know that this 10x is multiplying, I need to do the opposite, which would be to divide by 10. Now whatever I do here, I'm going to do over here. And I have this x by itself, which is awesome, because that's what we want to get. And if I know 30 divided by 10, off the top of my head, I can write it. If I don't, use your calculator and plug it in. So 30 divided by 10 is going to give me 3. And that's going to be my final answer. So pause, rewind if you need to. Double check that that made sense to you. And the next problem I'm going to do is number 8. So just don't forget about number 7. You're gonna do that one on your own, but I'm gonna move on to number 8. So number 8 is going to read 1.1 x plus 1.2x minus 5.4 equals negative 10. Now there's an extra number in there, so don't panic. We're going to draw our line first. And we're going to go ahead and use that boxing and circling strategy. So we're going to go ahead and look. We have variables in both of these, so we're going to go ahead and box them. Now notice that I'm going to leave my addition sign with my 1.2x. You always leave the signs with the number. And then I have that negative 5.4, and I'm going to circle that because it does not have a variable. It does not have an x. Okay. Now this part, our brains might differ a little bit. When I'm looking through I always like to stay with this. I like to solve my subtraction and addition first, just so I can get it out of the way, so it's not bothering me anymore. And then I move on to adding these together real quick, and then I keep going. If your brain is not like mine, that is okay. If you would like to start here and solve these first before moving on to here, that is totally your choice, okay? We'll both get the same answer. No big deal. So just know that you have an alternative way to do this. I'm going to show you how my brain works because it's easier to explain. But if you'd like to show me if you'd like me to show you the other way, I'd love to do that as well. Okay? So I'm looking for subtraction and addition without a variable. So I see my negative 5.4. So I know if I'm going negative, I'm going to go positive. I'm going to add that 5.4 to cancel it out. And whatever I do here, I must do over here. Now, when adding negatives and positives, it can get tricky, but don't let it trick you. Because you have a calculator, that's your weapon, no big deal. So we're going to do negative 10 plus 5.4. And that should give me negative 4.6. Now, if you're not getting this number, it's probably because you might be typing it into your calculator wrong. Double check with an adult in the room if you cannot get this, and we can help you figure that out, because every calculator is different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my equal sign, and I'm going to drop everything down that I still have left to solve. So I have 1.1x plus 1.2x still to solve. So I know both of these have an x. So I know I can combine them, because we can combine like terms. So I can either write this out over here. Oh, I don't need my x. So I could just write this out and add it up real quick. Or if you're more comfortable, you can type it into your calculator as well. So if we have 1.1 plus 1.2, it's going to give me 2.3. Okay? So it's not just 2.3, but I also need to have my x still, because remember we combine like terms. So these are all done, okay? So I'll erase my work here so we have less numbers going on. So I have 2.3x, because I combined these two, is equal to negative 4.6. Now I'm still not done because x is not by itself, and that's the point of these. We need to get x by itself. So I'm going to go back down here. We've already done our addition and subtraction. We got that all out of the way. I see my 2.3x. I know, based on the last problem, that means we're multiplying, okay? So I need to do the opposite to get x by itself. So I'm going to divide by 2.3. That's also next in our backwards PEMDAS, so I'm following the right steps. So whatever we do here, we have to do over here. So this would be a good one to use our calculator on. So we have negative 4.6 divided by 2.3, which is going to give me a negative 2. And I still have my x to drop down. So my final answer is x equals negative 2. Lots of steps, lots of things to remember. Pause, rewind if you got stuck. And the next one we're going to do is number 9. So number 9 is going to say 2/3 h. And I think it's minus. Let me double check that. Yep. So minus 1/3 h plus 11 equals 8. Okay. So let's go ahead and do our box. We'll draw our line. Then we need to box and circle. Okay, so I know I have a variable, so that's going to be my box. And I'm going to keep my sign with this one when I box. So I'm going to box this one as well, because it's also a variable. And then I'm going to circle my 11, because it does not have a variable. Now remember how I said brains can work differently? I'm going to actually do this one on maybe how your brain works. So what I did first was I got rid of my addition and subtraction. On this one I'm going to show you a different way, just because people's brains work different. don't panic because you see fractions. But I'm going to combine my like terms first, and then I'm going to solve the rest of it. So I'm going to take 2/3 minus 1/3. Okay, so I'm combining these terms. Now don't panic. The good news is we have common denominators, so all the work's done for us. All we have to do is take 2 minus 1, which should give us 1. And we're going to use that same denominator to get 1/3. Okay, so remember we still need to have an h behind it, so that's how I got that 1/3 h. We combine those, they are finished. Okay, so we have our 1/3 h, we still have plus 11 equals 8. So I still have some work to do, but we got rid of that first. So if you like that strategy better, use it, okay? It's just not personally my go-to strategy. So I'm going to go back down here. I'm going to look for subtraction and addition. So I see addition right away, and I know I need to do the opposite to get h by itself. So I'm going to subtract 11. That's going to cancel out. And whatever I do here, I must do over here. Now be careful when you're doing this, because I see a lot of students mess this up, and it's a mistake that we shouldn't be messing up. So if we have a smaller number minus a bigger number, it's always going to give us a negative answer. So if you're unsure about it, type it into your calculator. So it would just be 8 minus 11. It should give us a -3. And then we still have that 1/3 h to break down. Now if you don't know this by now, I'm going to harp on it for the rest of the video. If a number is directly beside a variable, we know it's multiplication, okay? Always and forever. So we're going to go into our next step here, and we're going to try to get h by itself. So how we do that is do the opposite of whatever operation it's doing. So we know it's multiplying, so we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to divide 1/3. That's going to cancel out. We get h by itself finally. And whatever I do here, I must do over here. So I'm going to divide by 1/3. Almost all your calculators should do fractions, so use that resource. So I'm going to do -3 divided by 1/3. And I'm going to get a -9. So my h is going to have -9 as my final answer. Lots of steps. I showed you a different way that your brain could think, so weigh out which one works best for you. And the next one I'm going to go on to is 13 and 14, which are going to be some word problems. So keep that in mind. Don't forget to go back and do those other ones that we skipped, but I would just really like to work over these because they're a little bit different looking. So I'm going to do 13. So 13 is a word problem, so I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud. And then I really hated word problems when I was in math, and I felt like those were always the hardest ones when I got home to try to do my homework. So we're going to work through a couple of these, and I'm going to model kind of what I was thinking. So we have watches for number 13. The cost of C in dollars of making N watches is represented by C equals 15N plus 85. So that's something really important. If the book's telling us that, it's something that we probably need to be writing down. So the book is asking us how many watches are made when the cost is $385. So we knew that the C means cost. So the book is trying to have us solve if our cost was $385. So what we can do is we can replace this because we know what the cost is. So we know that we're trying to get to 385 here. Okay? And I also know that this formula is going to help me, or this equation is going to help me find my answer. So remember, we're trying to figure out how many watches can be made when you're paying this much money. So this should look like something we've been doing. And I'm going to go ahead and walk through the steps. So I'm going to look here. Here's my line. So If this really stresses you out, remember, you can always rewrite it. You can do 15n plus 85 equals